So these are, the kind of arbitrary words to describe something, and it is a really incredibly. I'm going to be getting to an incredibly powerful manifestation technique that will be valuable to just about anybody that wants to get into it. But let me kind of explain what framework one and framework two are. So framework one in a nutshell is like it's like everything in this world. It's your body, it's your job, it's your family, it's the sun, it's the moon, it's your house, it's your car, it's the earth, it's your clothes, it's your friendships. Everything ultimately in the tangible world would be something that would be considered part of framework one. Tangible, practical reality that we all handle and deal with. So when we look at what framework two is, then framework two is a different concept. We're getting into the idea that think of framework two as almost like this giant cosmic computer bank, for lack of a better way of putting it. This is a lot more than a computer bank. And framework two is the place where events are set into motion. In a deeper truth, there's no such thing as true chance or chance encounter. No real truth that there's accidental death or birth or meetings or anything else for that matter. Things are generally orchestrated in this place we will call framework two. And so, listen, you've all had contact with this. There are times when you needed a roommate and you ran across an old friend from college and they were looking for a roommate at the same time. Or if you look at how you met your mate and your partner, you were in the same spot, in the same place. I always use a story about when I moved from New York to Arizona 30-something years ago, how quickly I made friends and found familiar people and rebuilt a family so rapidly. So something had to be going on and being orchestrated for all of us to have converged together in Phoenix at the same time. So I always knew that that was a big part of what framework two is or was, and that's how it brought us all together. So when we understand that, again, listen, if framework two is responsible for you meeting your spouse, your partner, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stay together. It might have only been that you were together for 3 years and then you separate. And we're not talking about things like that. We're talking about meant to be experiences and how they come about. So the idea behind framework two is, think of it as like, you don't really necessarily need the knowledge of the detail of how to make the things that you desire or want happen. It's really about having a trust that framework two is able to do this, and it is able to set up connections and probabilities and all kinds of dynamics that our regular small mind would not be able to piece together or do. So this is the nature of what framework two is, and everyone has access to it. You have more access to it often in the dream state, where it's kind of more of a pure connection, but we all have access to it, even if it at times seems like we're not getting what we want or we're asking for. So the idea behind working with framework two is that you're putting a desire or request into framework two, and then trusting that it will set up the coordinates, the people, the situations to bring things together. Now, very, very key element here. You can't use this force or this energy to like make someone fall in love with you or push against another person's greater will or what their need might be. I see videos sometimes on Instagram and TikTok and places like that where people talking about, here's a formula for making, anyone fall in love with you. Nonsense. You could certainly put a request into framework two to find love, to find happiness, to find someone you're compatible with, and it will go about doing that. Now, there's two things to remember here. One, framework two is not neutral. And that's the good news. So it leans itself toward, when requests are put in, toward the greater good for you and for other people involved. Okay, another way I would put that is you have to work really, really hard to create the terrible. And we, of course, do it by worry and fear and doubt and poor behavior choices. Again, framework two, it's a miracle worker, but, it can't go against your basic grain of beliefs, or if you have trouble with receiving and limitations that way, it's not going to bring about your desire. But what it can do that is equally valuable is it can enable you to, once that is set in motion, maybe to come to terms with where those beliefs and limitations and blockades are. Why were you blocking yourself before from the things that you desired? That can come in the form of meeting people that exaggerate your own worst characteristics so you can see it, or just having awarenesses or ahas that come. Then, of course, you're gonna, once things begin to get in motion, you're gonna have to follow your impulses and kind of trust those divine pushes. You can't ignore them either, the good positive ones, of course. And that will generally lead us to what we're ultimately asking for if, again, it's meant to be in our life. And most things are. You know, if you want to be the Queen of England, you're probably not going to pull that off. But then, do you really want to be the Queen of England? Okay, but if you want to be treated like a queen, or be treated well, or be seen as kind of royalty, that would be a request you can certainly put into framework 2. So as our, you know, abundance or better job or happy emotional fulfillment, all kinds of things that naturally flow within this, the framework of framework 2. Okay, so I want to give you guys a mantra to work with this. Again, remember, part of it is you're putting that request into framework 2, and you're trusting that it is going to do what it's meant to do, and then following, again, those impulses that come from there. So a good kind of mantra for this is I have the simple faith that the things that I desire can come about via framework 2. I know that the positive good can be worked out for me there. I don't need to know the details. I give framework 2 permission and to trust that it will handle the things I'm wanting to create and bring into my life. So some type of version of that can be said before you go to bed at night, or what I recommend telling this to a lot of clients is when you catch yourself worrying a lot. It's what I do when I start worrying. I stop myself and I go, okay, wait a second. Stop worrying that the bad is going to happen. I'm throwing this over to framework 2. Your job to handle this, to make the greater good come out for me. And I'm telling you, really largely it does. Sometimes it can take a little while to make the changes happen. Sometimes it's instantaneous. But ultimately, it is a great formula to understand, and it's kind of trusting in that power of the universe that there is something greater that does kind of push us toward a greater good. And the more we focus on that, the more we see it surface in framework 1. All right, hit a like and subscribe. Follow here on YouTube, and if you want to make sure you're updated to my monthly maybe every month or so videos, and check out information on personal services at my website at jimventura.com, or buy me a coffee /Ventura Wara. Information I'll put in the comment section. Feel free to comment on the video, and I do have a special from now until the end of December for new and returning clients for $10 to $75 off up to 1 to 3 sessions, either for yourself or to give to gifts for others. You can email me for info about that. Put that info also in the comment section. All right, everybody, happy holidays. And we got a new year coming, and in a couple weeks I'll be doing my New Year video about the new numerology and the year of the snake that's coming up too in Chinese astrology. Okay, next time. Cheers.